Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Happy 4th of July. In today's episode, I'm going to walk around the outside of the property real quick, a couple of minutes, but we'll get into the main garden over there. And I just want to say, gardening's a lot of work. So come end of June, right now, there's going to be a lot of maintenance that you're going to have to do. And again, as I always say, do your best. So I am cutting down butterfly bushes, all kinds of stuff. I'll show you that as we're going through. But I wanted to say, again, if you want to have more plants, more production, more growth, start your seeds in flats. Yogurt containers, something this size. This is basil. You'll see a lot of videos that talk about how do you have endless basil. And they say to keep pinching the flowers off. That works, but you'll have endless basil, and a lot of times it's just going to taste badly after a while. So you want to start a lot of seeds in cups like that or containers like that. Basil tends to bloom better or germinate better in seed starting mix than going and putting it right into the earth. So if you're putting it out in your garden, it doesn't germinate well. It is susceptible to like damping off disease and issues. So start them in your seed starting mix in some containers. This is Coreopsis that seeded itself. Kind of an experiment, looks cool, but it's, you know, a little bit out of hand. This is Homestead, I believe, lavender. And if you're looking for a lavender that does really well overwintering, I'm here in Maryland, Zone 7. It comes back year after year, and the pollinators just love it. You'll also notice maybe that on my grass, you'll see a lot of the white clover. I don't use any chemicals on here. I'm letting it just naturalize, lots of clover. When I cut the grass, there's lots of honeybees here, I kill them. And why do I say that? Because I don't want to, but when you're gardening and you're making decisions with insect dust, I'm going to show you a little bit about that, or you're making a decision, hey, I'm not going to use any chemicals on my lawn, I'm going to let the clover come feed the bees. Sometimes you can still kill off insects that you don't want to kill off. And they just don't move out of the way of the lawnmower. So I'm sure some of them, you know, get whacked by the blades. And that's something just to think about. When you're gardening, you can't be 100% perfect in protecting the insects that you want. And people worry about that a lot. That's why I just wanted to bring that up. Sometimes they're going to die. Try and feed them. This is a pollinator garden. Places for all the insects to live, be happy, and all that kind of stuff. And it's doing pretty well. Spinning over here, these are things that I just picked up from a thrift store. That's a futon frame, I believe. That was $15. The wood would cost more than that. Another ladder. There are going to be projects for trellising. And I wanted to show you this, and then we'll get over to the main garden. This was the project I was working on in the last video. And this was really putting down some framed beds, some raised beds, and I did get to plant it all out. So I'm really excited about that. The soil here, or the driveway was uneven. There's pockets of earth under there, but I think that'll look really nice when this all fills in. Okay, let's get over to the main garden. Now here's a garden that has to be addressed. I haven't gotten to this one. You can see all the weeds. So I spend time over in the main garden, clean that up, then I come over here. And I think next year I'm going to change this up a little bit because I'm doing too much maintenance between the 3 different gardens. Although I use them for teaching videos, I need to change one of them in some capacity. I love coming out here in the morning and doing these videos because of all the bird sounds. So this is a tree that was wrecked by the cicada. In case you have cicada damage, they come in and they just cut little strips in the bark and lay their eggs. And this is all sap oozing out of here. So if you have fruit trees that are struggling, best thing you can do, give them a lot of water, feed them, let them recover. Take any fruit on there that might be on there, even though you might want to save it, remove it, and let the tree recover for next year. Sunflowers that seeded themselves, always a favorite part when they're starting to open up and fill in the garden, and that's just kind of nature having her hand at my garden. Potatoes look like they're dying off, perfectly normal. They're going to be huge harvest of potatoes, I hope. Always give you a quick look at the sweet potatoes. They're doing their thing, looking pretty good. I'm starting to clear out space for my cucumbers, the basil, other plants, beans that I'm growing in those, seed starting trays. But I wanted to show you this. Again, that is Swiss chard that seeded itself, and that's a monster. I have not fed that water-soluble fertilizer. It did get the care that I put into this bed for the onions, which the onions just didn't do what I wanted, but I am using them. But left alone, it's doing really, really well. And what's interesting are these leaves are monstrous, huge, and there is one little dot of a problem. Usually my Swiss chard gets problems all over the leaves about 3 weeks ago. So there's something said for just letting a plant have space, grow large, be healthy. It will fight off pests and problems a lot easier. And maybe that's kind of one of the points that I've been stressing is don't work harder than you have to in your garden. Your plants want to grow, your garden wants to give back to you. Give them, what they need, mostly nowadays in the way of regular watering. Feed them, but just let them grow. Space cleared out, tomato pruned, tied it up, been doing that. I love the way this guy's looking. Just growing a single plant that, again, this plant seeded itself. Here's what the tomatoes are going to look like. I don't know if they're going to get bigger or not, but they're everywhere. But I love how this looks. I would have never thought to do this, grow a single tomato on this concrete wire, but I just keep weaving the branches out, and I just wanted to give you an update. It looks beautiful. All the turnips, the carrots, the beets will be coming out. I will have that as open space. If you're growing in fabric pots, everything's looking really, really good. There's the celery. I'll be doing a video on this soon. Took out the carrots, if you were curious. All that growth really just grows out of the carrot taproot. But the flowers faded and they were dying off. But again, celery's ready to come out. Needs at least probably 120 days of growth in sun. Celery takes a while to grow. So here's the main area that I was working on. Again, I just recommend you hack away, throw your stuff into your path, clean it up when you have to. If you don't get to it, it'll dry, it'll crumble up, it'll feed the surface roots that stretch out. So basically what I've been doing is taking out space between any plant, really. Those are beans. You can take leaves off from the bottom, trellis them upwards. Same thing over here. I've been dealing with pruning out the butternut squash, and you can see some nice ones growing. There's one right there. There's two. There's probably a third around there somewhere. But open up that space. That's the best way to manage for pests and disease. I've been burying different parts of the stem, letting them root into the ground. That's the way to kind of outlast the vine borer. And as these plants grow outward more vine-wise, some of them I'll remove, some of them I'll tuck back in. And you can see, I let the vine grow out to here, cover it with soil. I'm going to let this one grow right into here. It's already got a mind of its own, going into the compost bin. Take care of a few plants, let them do their thing. A lot easier to take care of 2 butternut planted there than doing 6 or 8 of them. Trellis them upwards too, because as we remove the leaves from the bottom, the entry points for a lot of insects are going to be either landing on the leaves or crawling from the bottom. We're going to be able to put dust down and manage them if we need to. When you're turning all your vines in, you're going to have a mess of leaves like that, and you would thin out the leaves that are folded over underneath some leaves. You want them to look more like that, where they're curling out and getting to the sun. You don't need leaves matted in there. But I just turned these vines in, so I'm going to give them a couple of days to kind of correct themselves, and then I'll remove whatever needs to be removed. And you can see too, bottom leaves off the tomato plant, the bean plant, and then I just come over here, wherever the vine falls, I would tuck it through the trellising. But it's starting to look good. I already have green beans coming in my bush beans. This is the video I just did, if you want to check back a couple, of just pruning out a cucumber plant. And it's kind of cool this way, because you can see how well it rebounded from the heavy pruning a couple days ago. There's a cucumber on there. And I'm going to be doing a video today. Notice how actually the flowers will come back, the leaves will come back, but I'm removing them from this space. This is what they look like if you don't do that. But this is where the dust will go. So any cucumber beetles walking into here would walk through the dust. Cucumber beetles fly, so I will put dust on the outer leaves. It's the morning, so anything I had on here, I rinsed off. It actually rained, so it washed off for itself, or washed off by itself. But some dust here, some dust there, some dust there. So you have cucumber beetles or insects that will walk in, that will fly in, but I'm going to reduce the damage they cause. And I'm going to protect the pollinators. That's what I was talking about in the beginning. Even if you do things that are good for pollinators, there's the honeybee, you may accidentally kill off some of them, and that's okay, but just try and reduce it down. This is the way to do it. Remove the flowers, put the dust, keep the dust out here, put it on, as I say, in the evening, wash it off in the morning, they'll be good to go. Cutting everything back, everything back. 3 cucumber plants in that space, starting to take off. And I want to show you, this is probably the most important point of this video, is open up the space below your plant. So you can see everything that I've removed and taken out, including sunflower leaves, bean leaves, cucumber leaves. Well, let me show you one thing. So last night it poured, and of course I leave my stuff out all the time. So my organic fertilizer got wet. So when it rains, if you do this, and hopefully hopefully nobody else does, but I don't think I'm the only person. If it gets wet on top, it's going to dry, but the water seeps down here and fills up. So if you accidentally leave this out, dump this out onto a tarp, spread it out, let it dry again. If not, this is all going to get moldy, it's going to start to smell, and it's going to be a problem. It'll get packed together. But you can save it, you know, save some money. Dump this out on the tarp, let it dry today, because the moisture, water will collect down there, and it will just smell horribly. Here are some of the squash plants that I pruned in a video about a week ago, and just look how nice they're coming back. Flowers are opening. I can see the zucchini on there. Opened up this space slowly. And like I said, I lifted up some vines. So I'm giving these about a day or two to kind of let the leaves correct. But you want the leaves that you keep to be out here collecting sun, and then you remove the leaves that are inside of there. I mean, tons and tons of flowers. I call it chaos pruning. Yeah, chaos pruning. You know, there's a method to it, but the method is bottom, lift up the vines, remove lateral vines that are in the way. You know, and this is what I do, is just kind of look around, listen to the birds. Things look good. Squash plants, heavily pruned. They're all coming back strong. And that's what you're going to be surprised, is just because you kind of give these a really harsh hair cutting, look at all the honeybees. If I were to dust, notice how that space is open right there. No flowers. The dust will go there to manage the vine borer and other insects. Corn's looking good. Tassels, silks, getting ready to go. Again, the squirrels population has been low, so I don't think I'm going to cage that in. But as soon as it starts raining, your garden will just go crazy. You know, I have tomato plants that are over 6 feet tall now, which is pretty good here for Maryland Zone 7. Here are all my backups. They're good to go into this space. Took out all the peas, cleared that out. I might put in some sunflowers. But today's July 4th. These were all planted on June 16th. And I have squash, cucumbers, lemon cucumber, some different varieties than what I have growing, but they will go into this space. I think I'm going to do a video on that, just to how do you refresh that up and get them planted. But I couldn't have done this, you know, out in the garden. I would put down 36 plantings throughout the garden, then I have to go water them, care for them, and all that kind of stuff. I really like just doing it in these flats. It makes it so much easier. You carry the flat out. There's beans in there. You know, I'll be able to kind of just fill in this space. Let's take a turn. And you can see like the cherry tomatoes, I just feel like I just pruned these 7 days ago. But the gap is closing, so I will have to get through here again. I got all the way up to here, going to the fence, and then I ran out of energy. So I'll start up again today. But this is what kind of keeps me motivated. It's just looking at everything that is going on. I mean, those are just beautiful tomatoes that are going to be coming to the table soon. There's a poblano. I didn't even see that before. That's ready to harvest and probably will hit the grill today. Going to be slowly cooking some ribs starting in about an hour for like 6 or 8 hours. Tucked in there are the flowers, which I highly recommend. You want the pollinators to be coming in. It's just all the pepper plants, tomatillos, sunflowers, just a different angle. I kept this space with asparagus because I was talking before, you know, I just didn't need all of that. I haven't planted that space. We'll walk back over there. I mean, I haven't rebuilt that space, but I bought the wood yesterday. I'm going to be doing that too. But you need maybe, let's see, 6, 12, maybe a row that's about 12 to 18 feet is perfect for a family of 2, family of 4 for asparagus. You just don't have to go crazy because it gets really big. You have to let it grow to full size so the sun comes in, recharges the roots, and then you get your asparagus next year. But I have to keep trimming that back, cutting the top, you know, and it just was taking over, I think, valuable space, and I wasn't eating all the asparagus. I was just kind of giving it away. There's one of my gardens. I was talking of 3. That's in a series for your summer garden. That's going crazy too. I got to get in there, harvest that one out. Things are just going well. Tomatoes look good. All these Rapunzels. I want to show you one thing. So notice, you know, this kind of leaf damage, there's nothing to worry about. If it's completely brown, it's in a couple of the lower leaves, you don't worry. Anything on the lower leaves is usually die off when the plant's taking resources from the bottom, sending it up for top growth. If you start seeing the same pattern on all of them at once, that's a concern. Like these are going to have to get sprayed with the sprays that I use this week for the round for July, and they should be good. For example, I mean, there's the Juliets. They're looking good. There's probably 12 plants all in this section, and the only die-off I have is from this plant. That's just normal die-off, even though you see spots like that. That's just a leaf getting weak, dying back. You could spray the antifungal now too, just to be safe. And then the plant over here, does it have some, or is that? Yeah, so I moved that out. There's no yellow on here. Some down there at the bottom, that's normal, that's flea beetles. But the only plant that's yellowing is this one, and it was a watering issue with me not giving it enough water. But you don't start panicking when you have one plant like this. Just prune it off, maybe give it some fish emulsion or water-soluble fertilizer of your choice. This plant will take off. But you're looking for diseases across your plants. That's how you know you have a big problem. If you start seeing that, like leaf spots on all the bottom leaves in different places, you have to get out there and spray quickly. But all these guys look pretty healthy. Containers are growing well. All kinds of peppers. I think actually if you're growing in these vertical towers, I am affiliated with Greenstalk Gardens. They have a pretty cool new spinner that you can put on the bottom of your tower, and it really makes it easy for you to turn the tower. So like the sun comes down this way, the other side doesn't get a lot, but this new spinner, I can just easily just twist it and turn my plant towards the sun. I'll do that towards the end of the video if you want to check that out. These are determinate varieties. Ones in the middle tend to keep more moisture in there. The ones at the top tend to evaporate more quickly, the containers. So these plants are a little beat up, but again, notice it's the bottom as you go up top, nice and green, lots of production. Things are going to be fine. So just keep up on the watering. When your tower growing, for an obvious reason, the core gets shaded off, stays cooler, evaporates left, the top evaporates more. So sometimes you have to water the top container more often. Eating blueberries, eating blackberries, letting this place get out of control, but I think I will get to that today too. I can see the hops vines are intermingling now with the blueberries, but it'll be just a quick walk through here, ripping out different things. Tiny Tims, been harvesting and using those in salads. Hops vines, I think they look pretty cool. It's going to be too much sun, but they look really cool. All right, let's go back over to the other side of the garden. Well, I decided to go over to the other garden. You've already seen the front of this one. Compost, compost, compost. Whatever you can get started, I highly recommend you just get a bin of some sort, just like the one on the end there. Start filling it with leaves and grass, garden debris. You will love having compost. Just start it now. Maybe you don't use it this year, maybe you don't use it next year, but just keep building it up because it'll be a wonderful, wonderful resource. So this is one of my teaching gardens, doing a series on this, which I will link in case you want to look into it. But I basically planted this space from the beginning of the video. Be doing the fourth part, I think, to show how to kind of maintain it. But it's growing really well. Here are some cucumber plants that have to be pruned and trellised up. You can just see how they take over the space. I am sending them up their trellis. One zucchini plant that has not been pruned yet. All those leaves that are inside there are under the leaves right on top. They will be removed. Do some basic pruning. I've been trellising the tomatoes up. They're doing well, taking out leaves from the bottom. But this whole series was about, start with a small space. There was only one zucchini in there. There was nothing planted right there. But you can see how your plants take over. So part of the strategy is to imagining what your garden's going to look like when it's fully grown, because it's a lot of work. The best eggplant in my garden are right there and right there, doing really well. Basil, beans, potatoes, but this whole place is a haven for slugs and insects and disease. Doesn't mean something bad's could happen. If you don't want to prune, you don't have to. But you can do some things now so that when we're talking in the beginning of August, these plants are still alive and thriving. Wanted to show you this spinner. It's pretty impressive in a way of design. I have looked at a bunch of them over the years. This is my strawberry tower. I think these are a Delizz variety, D-E-L-I-Z-Z, an All-America Selections winner. You can see there's still raspberries coming, or strawberries coming. They're all growing really well here because the sun tracks this way and is all out in front here for like 8 hours. So I put this spinner down. You can pick these up at Greenstalk Gardens. I'll put the link in the video description. But it's just a basic spinner, well designed, and it moves real easily. You can get it just like this, or you can get it with wheels if you're on a deck or a patio and you have to wheel it around for sun reasons. You might want the wheels. All right, here's the beauty. Great growth, and I can just easily, one hand, spin it to expose this side. This plant is starting to send out runners, and I don't know, let's see if we can find some real quick in case you don't know what strawberry runners are. They are here. Okay, here's one. So they will send out runners to reproduce, and they get really long, and all you do is you tuck this end into a pocket or somewhere in the ground. So I will propagate the strawberries that are doing well into the pockets over here, and by adding this spinner I'm going to be able to grow on the whole other side of the tower. Because when I come out here, you know, one day I might just give it a quick turn. Next day, turn it a little bit more. And you'll just be able to rotate your vegetable towers around, maximizing sun and growth. It's really, really cool. And I don't, you know, really support a lot of different products. But this, like I said, is brilliant if you want to pick it up. Use my code too. If you spend more than $75, you'll get a $10 discount. I'm going to be putting these on all those 6 vertical towers I have in my main garden. You don't need a lot of space. That's a 4x4. We have the basil, 5-gallon pots of potatoes. We have 3 pepper plants in there, and then we have the green beans growing up here into the muscadines. I mean, everything is looking pretty good. There's probably zucchini in here. Yeah, so I got to get in there, pick out the zucchini. All these leaves will continue to grow. So if these are beat up here, I remove these top beat up leaves. If they had disease on them, I remove them, spray down there. These leaves will come back. As long as you keep your plant alive, it's going to keep wanting to grow, and wanting to thrive. Just have a plan. Now, people ask me all the time, when do I spray? When do I water? How much food do I give them? It's going to vary. So I hope as you watch my channel and you follow me, which I greatly appreciate, you're thinking about using a journal, you're thinking about what works for your garden, and really come up with a routine. Because the diseases, the pests, of course, vary. But also the temperatures vary. Some places get more humid like here, so you have different kinds of diseases. Some places are really dry, lots of heat, you have to use drip irrigation. Here's a quick look at the tomato bed. Notice the pruning at the bottom. I'll probably end there. You know, you don't have to have your garden looking perfect, but you want to have a strategy. You want to learn about what works in your area. For me, I need to keep things bottom pruned. That really stops diseases from starting, you know, at the soil level and working their way up. Airflow is good, keeps the pests away to an extent. My goal is not to manage 100% of the bugs away or the disease away. That would be great, but that's not realistic. It's to keep managing the problem down so that I get continued production. And look at the sunflowers. I just love this part in July when they're all starting to bloom. Is to manage the problem down so you get continued production, and then you can take the plant out when you want to, and you can go to your transplants or you can reseed, and you're just getting production spring, summer, fall, and you're just having a good experience. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great 4th of July, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and check out Greenstalk Gardens if you're looking for a spinner for your towers. You can also use those for big potted plants. Again, thanks for watching.